When you are dealing with change, when you're taking on expanded responsibility, here are some tips to address some of that stress. In part three, we talked about pros and cons to taking on new responsibility. If you haven't seen it, this will make more sense if you go and watch that and go find it because I'm not going to repeat it. So, the high points, you need a clear perspective or a clear direction. Sometimes you want to suggest a change, and you must know why you are invested. So I'm getting excited, so this might be long because I start to ramble on when I do that, but I'll do my best. First, having a clear perspective or direction. When you take on a new role, yes, there is a piece of becoming a beginner again, and that's valuable. I talked about that in part two. However, it is essential that you set the direction. That's a major objective. What outcome is needed overall? What ultimate achievements? And how should it feel in the end? A lot of this definition depends on the subject that you're focused on, and that's harkening back to part one. But I'll give you some high points that I know that you'll be able to apply whatever it is you're doing. For my own interest, I'm going to use a workplace example. I am the empowered team architect, after all. So, in order to have a clear perspective, you need to begin with the big rocks so you know the domain of the task ahead. Excuse me, some examples. Major components of the work or process. So, what are the big rocks? The kinds of departments and when to involve them. And finally, in my opinion, the communication tempo alongside any training needed to fill any gaps. Now, I've only given you three things to gain a clear perspective. If you're on the spectrum like me, you're saying, this is ridiculous. There's so much more to it. But trust me, when you want to get a clear perspective, those three things will take you a long way. And as you go, you can fill in the other things. So, what are the main objectives? Who needs to be included and when do you need to include them? And lastly, what is the best organized time frame to communicate with them in? Go and study that out, but here are some top level pros and cons. So, pros to having a clear perspective. And you will start to see why people are miscommunicating. And once you see that and can resolve it, you start to really get the big picture of what the job is versus what people think the job is. If you are thorough and want to, because you don't have to, tracking the likely reasons for miscommunications can also help you plan your next move in the future. And without even trying, you will quickly solve new issues due to your new knowledge of these big rocks. Now, you don't need to know all of the resolution to the expert level. You need to know it at the recognition level. So, at the recognition level, you know who you need to talk to for expert knowledge instead of doing it all on your own or being the expert all in one. And this actually puts off boss vibes. Pro tip. So, cons of needing a clear perspective, or gaining it, rather. There are cons to gaining a clear perspective. You may find conflicting information, and for whatever reason, this starts to divide people. And you will need to make decisions, and sometimes you will need to backtrack on the decisions that you make. So, congratulations. Conflicting information is under the category of growing pains and is not actually something to be avoided. Perfection is the actual trap. Seeking perfection can actually lead you away from being self-directed. So, when you, in all honesty and integrity, attempt something only to discover it's not actually preferred, there is an opportunity to change your mind and be open about needing to change your mind, even though it looks like being wrong. It actually shows that you care and are mature enough to do what is best for the big picture. This is a pro encapsulated in a con. It gives people that you work with an opportunity to be open and honest as well. You want that. So another con to needing a clear perspective or to gaining one, it may take time. And depending on the size of the work, you may go months in observation and learning mode alongside doing the job. And this is in the area of gaining clarity. But trust me, in the end, it is worth it. And the reason you want to take the time, if it's necessary, you want to wait. Let me flip that. If you wait until the problem arises to gain clarity, you trying to learn about it at the time of actual need versus earlier will cost you more time and more money. So my advice only, be proactive. So that's one of three. Gain clarity. Two, suggesting a change when you take on new responsibilities. This is inevitable. Every leader does it. They work towards a clear perspective, and immediately on that clear perspective, they want to change something. So you get an idea, it's very normal, and at the beginning it seems like that's the best time to put it into play. But here are some tips before you ever voice it to anyone. Okay, keep it to yourself. 1, survey staff. Try to see if in the staff, because you're new, is there an inherent division in the office already on this thing that you want to describe, the change that you want to describe? Who is on what side? Have that change, have changes like that been suggested before by the staff or by previous leaders? And did it work out? And why do they think it did or didn't work out? What are the obstacles in the office right now that they would like to solve? And that, gives me Ted Lasso vibes, season 1. Now, once you know who is on what side of the existing division, the change you want to suggest, where will their opinions be? And can you maybe head it off at the pass and throw out some what ifs, like a test balloon? Use something like a similar type of change and just kind of validate your guess. You're doing all of this to kind of gain buy-in from people. Now, when they bring up issues, the people that you're surveying, when they bring up issues, do your best to just listen. Avoid trying to defend what you're trying to suggest. Just listen. And here's the reason. They may have a point, and you may need to take a second look at your plan. This is very wise. Okay, 2, survey the landscape or gain an understanding of the parameters. You want to know what kind of milestones it will take, maybe mini goals to get to the ultimate change that you want. What will it take in manpower, time, and resources? Are there any known gaps in the plan that you have? Now, you don't need to solve the gaps. You just want to be aware that they are there. And please don't plan to perfection at the outset. Plan only enough for an intelligent conversation. That intelligent conversation will let you know if something is already in the works somewhere. And what kind of interim goals must you include to gain buy-in from other departments that need to collaborate? You need to know how urgent the change is, and you need to have a contingency if things are just not working out for some reason. Because the last thing you want is to break a secondary process or break secondary reports for people, because that will cause awkward workarounds and pressure at the working level, and that will negate all of the good you're attempting to create. So, contingency plans. Now, know this too. 3, collaboration or consensus. If you're suggesting a change, does everyone else have to agree? Now, I'm not saying it's for sure yes, everyone needs to agree, or for sure no. Just some people need to agree. It really depends on what kind of project you're working on. Part one. Just consider it. Really, does everyone have to agree? And if yes, what will it take to get that? Yeah, good luck. I think that's good. So that's 2 of 3. Oh, yeah, this is a little bit longer. I'm having fun. Hope you're having fun. I love these kinds of conversations. So, 1 is clear perspective, 2 is suggesting a change. Don't be afraid of that. And 3, this is last. When you take on new responsibility, ask yourself this question: why am I so invested? Why am I invested in this role? Why am I invested in this work? And perhaps why am I invested in this change actually going well? Perhaps it's about you. It could be self improvement. It might be identity related. It could make your life easier or more interesting. Everyone's answer will be different, but maybe it's not about you. Maybe you're invested for others' sake, your family, your team, your customers. It could be a societal reason, or it could be something completely different. It could be about others' opinions, and that's completely a valid reason to be invested. It may be to avoid judgment. There's some complexity baked in with that one, but it's good to identify if that's what the reason for your investment. Does it have a flavor of being or of seeking acceptance from others, from peers, people you respect, a group? Again, this question of why I am invested, it's not about a right answer. It's about clarity for yourself. Uh, and it could be all about you. It could be about others. It could be both. It could be neither. It might be about some kind of integration. It could be humanitarian. That could be your investment. It could be community service or about protection. Yeah, I'm invested to be protected. And that does have a divisive tone, but it could be. And I don't know. It's your thing. You figure it out. Why are you invested? Why is this so important? Why is it important to know why you are invested? Okay, here's why. Your level of investment lays out your reason for being there. And once you see that for yourself, you see why the headache is worth it, or why it isn't worth it. But at the very start, it's important to know why you're invested. Now, are you allowed to change your reason? 100%. And anyone who says you can't is trying to steer you somewhere. You're allowed to change the reason you're invested in something. Now, when you change your mind, it will change your level of willingness to participate. It will change your level of attention, whether up or down. And that actually might be the reason someone wants to gaslight you into believing that neither you nor anyone else in the world can ever change your decision. But I know you know how to handle that, so I'll just leave you to it. So when you take on expanded roles and want to navigate it well, the 3 things: be clear-minded, suggest changes, but with some background, just not willy-nilly, and know why you're so invested in the change. This will help you remain self-directed. Fun. So in part 5, if I do it the way I planned, I'll share about past labels or past failures, along with what it means to feel divided. So please pause this video, pause your scroll, pause your binging, take some time to consider these questions alongside your selected problem. If you're like me, you binge watch and then you want to find something and it's hard to find. So now is a good time. Pause watching, take a walk, be quiet, consider these things. And once they sink in, they will become yours and you won't need me to tell you anything anymore. Silence is good sometimes. Some time for the brain to just give you answers. Hashtag rest. All right. Peace. See you soon.